Hello and welcome. This is Shanna today with Caffeinated Craftiness, here representing the Team Tiny TLC Designs YouTube hop. My card today features digital stamps, digital paper, and a die set, all from TLC Designs. The die set I'm going to be using is this daisy frame die. It comes with a few different frame dies and dies to create a daisy, although we won't be using the daisy today. I will be using the two smallest frames you see on screen to create my Shadowbox card. I will also be using papers from the Scene digital paper pack that you see on screen. I will have links to all my products below in the description. This paper pack comes packed full of multiple scenes that you can use on your cards. I absolutely adore the colors and the variety you receive in the digital paper pack. I will be using the final three I just showed on screen. I'm going to set those aside and clean up. When I get a Digi paper pack, I like to print all of them like this, and then I clip them all together with just like a binder clip to store in with my paper pads, just like I would if I purchased a paper pad at a store. It's super handy for me to refer back to and pull from at whim. These are images from the Seahorse Sam digital stamp set that I'll be using in with my card today. I did pre-color them with my Copic markers to speed along my process video. So let's get started building our card. For the base of the card, you will need one full sheet of paper and then one 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch piece. The full sheet you're going to cut in half and create the base structure. So the first piece is being just scored straight down the middle at 5 1/2. Burnish the folds really quick. Then the second piece is at 1/2 inch, at 5 1/2 inches, and at 6 inches. All to create kind of like a box type shape to create our shadow box inside our card. I like to make sure all my creases are nice and burnished so they fold and manipulate well with the card. It does help if you trim just a little bit off the edges so it fits a little more snug inside your A2 card. On the card base, we're going to cut a 1/2 inch off of one end, so when you combine the two pieces, it lays flat to still make a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch card. This piece measures 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and we are scoring on a 1/4 inch on each side to create the inside scene layer for our shadow box. Burnishing the sides really quick, and then you can see it just kind of folds in and stands on itself. So when you layer them together, you have that inner layer. Inside the shadow box, we have what we call a magic number. Our pattern papers need to be cut down so they fit inside. That number is 5 inches wide by 4 1/4 inches tall. If we cut our papers down to that, it will fit where we need to create all of our windows. So I like to make a template and then I kind of stage it onto my pattern paper so I have an idea of where I'm going to cut. This helps me keep from wasting my pattern paper and not having to cut more than one time. After you've trimmed all your pattern papers, we're going to set them aside and we are going to work on cutting our windows. So I like to layer them in the order I'm going to use them. One is the very far back, then you have that middle layer, and then you're going to have the top layer, so 3 pieces in total. These are the 2 nesting frames. So I start by taping them together, making sure they're centered, and I just use a big piece of light tack masking tape to use this. This helps keep them in place while I do multiple cuts with them on the different pieces of paper. We are going to start with our largest window, which is our topmost layer of the card. So that is the piece of paper we'll put it on first, and you want it pretty darn near center. You can either measure this out with a ruler or eyeball it. In this case, I'm kind of using some of the grid marks on my self-healing mat below my paper, but for the most part, it's probably closer to just eyeballing it. Once it's in the spot you want to cut it, go ahead and run it through your die cut machine. You're going to take out both frames. At this point, we've cut our biggest frame, so we're gonna peel off the paper. We don't need that paper. Layer the two, but then I'm gonna peel away the biggest die. So that means I've still have the smaller die remaining and it's perfectly centered beneath that first one. After running it through the die cut machine, carefully peel off the tape. I do this best by keeping it really lateral with the paper instead of lifting up. I find better results with that. And at this point you can see they are perfectly centered. We don't cut the back piece at all because that is just the background. It does not have a window. So we're going to glue it directly to the inside of the card. And then we can start building up the dimension. The top layer, so the biggest window, is going to go on the outside of our little insert. And what that's going to actually do is give us like a puzzle slot to put the die back in to run through the big shot again and die cut the full window. We're going to repeat that same process with the middle insert using the pattern paper as a template to place the die on this one as well. So I glue down the paper and then notch in that die so it's in the same exact spot and run it through the big shot to die cut the window fully. This method produces really clean cut windows without having to measure and cut different times on all the different papers. Now we get to start playing around with our images and seeing where we want to lay them on the card. So I'm pulling them all over so I can see everything I want to place on my card. I do like to put things on the inside and the outside of the frames. If that makes sense, it adds a little bit different dimension on each layer. Once you are happy with where you want to place them, go ahead and adhere them. I do use wet glue for most of my project because I like the manipulation it gives me before it dries so I can get things exactly where I want them. See, like here you can see I'm placing him just on the back side of the frame, so he's tucked under, but he's not flat against the next layer. My cute little seahorse is going to be center stage right on front of the card, and we'll give him some company with the starfish and a shell. After all of the images have been glued down, it's time to assemble the card. So to do that, you're going to slide in that middle insert and glue it in. But folks, this is where I messed up. So at this stage, I realized I built the inside of my card backwards. That half-inch fold actually needs to butt up against the inside seam of the card base. So to fix that, I needed to cut an extra piece to create a hinge to glue to the inside of my card base. It isn't the end of the world. And it was actually kind of comical that I got this far into building the card before I realized that I had messed it up. But I figured I would leave that in full disclosure so you guys could see how I fixed my oops. So to create something that would adhere to the inside of the card, so to connect it all together, I just cut a piece of paper that was a half-inch wide and scored it straight down the middle, so a 1/4 inch on each side of the score line. This got glued right to the edge and then right to the inside of the card. I unfortunately end up coming off screen here in a second, but the idea is you are just gluing it together and you end up with a box. So all the layers are pieced together and then you have this box shape left at the end. With that fixed edge is what's going to go inside the card. I use my Misty as a weight and it helps weigh it down while it dries so it dries nice and even. Here I just created another quick design using one of the sentiments from the Seahorse Sam digital stamp set. I just quickly actually put the digital sentiment right onto the paper before I printed it, and it printed it all together. I did that both for the front of my card base and that inside flap. The inside flap I thought would be really cute to actually write the message for the card on. Now we're actually going to glue the shadow box into the card base. So you can see we have this little box shape left with all the layers in it, and all it does is nest right in to the card base. So you want to make sure you put glue on that fold edge and all over the back. Then you kind of wiggle it into place and lay it flat. I lifted a little early so it didn't glue, so I re-glued again really quick, and then I'm going to put some weight on it so it can dry solid. And that finishes up my card. I hope you enjoyed it today, bloopers included. Be sure to search the hashtag in my title for more videos in this hop. There's tons of inspiration to be had. And be sure to visit the TLC Designs shop. The link is down in the description below. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day and stay crafty. Bye guys.